Thank you very much for waiting. So today we have a special session marking 2 years after the Great East Japan earthquake, and this session is jointly hosted with the AICHI Triennale 2013, which is the first international art festival after the Great East Japan earthquake. And today we have invited two briefers. AICHI Triennale 2013 art director Mr. Taro Igarashi and architect Mr. Toyo Ito. Marking 2 years after the quake, potentials of architecture and art, how they can commit and what they can do for reconstruction and the revival of Japan. This is the theme for today. And after the presentations, we will connect this conference hall with the disaster hit area of Sendai through Skype to have a dialogue with the sufferers and those who are involved in the reconstruction. Now I'd like to hand over this microphone to Ms. Junko Suzuki, PR Director of AICHI Triennale 2013. And people on the floor, please put your phone into the silent mode as usual. Thank you very much for your collaboration in advance. So Ms. Suzuki, please. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today, despite your busy schedule. I am Suzuki, PR Director of AICHI Triennale 2013. I am chairperson. I am the MC in Tokyo. So we will follow the program, but we are going to have a lot of contents today. So Mr. Taro Igarashi, the art director of AICHI Triennale 2013, we would like to ask Mr. Igarashi to have a presentation for 10 minutes. Mr. Igarashi, please. I'm art director of AICHI Triennale 2013. I'm Igarashi. This year's AICHI Triennale concept is, as shown on the slide, Awakening. Where are we standing? Earth, memory, and resurrection. This is the theme for AICHI Triennale this year. After the East Japan earthquake, the arts architect, based on the arts and the architecture after the earthquake, this theme was set very simply. I myself is not a specialist in arts, but rather I am from the architect field. So I've been making a lot of critiques of the architectural area, and I am now art director of AICHI Triennale. I myself was suffered from the earthquake, and now we are looking at the building of Tohoku University one day before the earthquake. I used to have an office there, and I used to study with the. I used to learn with the students. However, due to the earthquake, it was damaged. So 4 corner pillars were badly damaged. So this building can no longer be used due to the earthquake. So we didn't have a classroom for a while after the earthquake, but now we have a temporary building, and we managed to spend days. So earthquake. I am somewhat related to the earthquake. So based on my experience, I am now involved in the art festival. Well, after the earthquake in each genre, what we can do ourselves, such kind of questions were raised in each field, especially in the field of architect. From early period, various movements were seen in a lot of places. That's because in 1995, the great Hanshin Awaji earthquake, compared to that earthquake, this Great East Japan earthquake was even bigger in scale. That might be one of the reasons. So in the architect field, there are much movements. And as you can see at the bottom, this is the exhibition And how did the architects respond to immediately after the March 11th? This is the theme of the exhibition, and we are doing the tour of this exhibition in overseas. On the other hand, in art area, it is difficult to respond to this disaster in a speedy manner. In the architect field, we got involved in the temporary houses, or we were able to visit the evacuation homes. However, it didn't apply to the art area. For artists, it took time for them to make their artworks into the to internalize their artworks. It took a lot of time, and the word of memory is used for Aichi Triennale theme. Objective figure, it's not the record of objective figures, but we have to appeal to the people's mind. Such kind of memory, it's something art is very good at. So in Aichi Triennale, we chose this memory as one of the themes. And from now on, I'd like to introduce some artists participating in Aichi Triennale and the artists who are related to the disaster hit area. At the end of March, when I visited the disaster hit area for the first time, I visited the Rias Arc Museum of Arts. The curator, Mr. Yamauchi, Mr. Hiroyasu Yamauchi, I met with the curator and I had a dialogue, and it gave me a lot of shock. He himself, as a curator in Kesennuma area, he thought that he knew that the Kesennuma area had been hit a lot by the tsunamis, and he wanted to convey the message through the exhibition, but he couldn't before the earthquake, and he also lost his house. And when I visited this museum, he needed to live in this museum. This museum has an aspect of a historic museum of a local area. So how this event, this damage can be memorized under such theme in the late March of 2011, he gave me a lot of messages. So Rias Arc Museum is one of the participants of Aichi Triennale. This museum is currently has collected various things from the disaster hit area. They are not debris, but suffered objects according to what they call. So each one of item has a memory and story of the people's lives. So they collected these in order to convey the message for the future, in order to convey the memory of this disaster. Next, Ms. Rieko Shiga. She, as well, is from coastal area of Sendai City, and she lost her house due to tsunami. And she is a photographer, and she also lost a lot of her photos, and she needed to live in temporary house. From early period, we asked her to participate in Aichi Triennale. However, she said that she couldn't think of participating in Aichi Triennale. That was her response, and we didn't get a yes answer from her. However, at the end of last year at the Sendai Media Park, she hosted a very impressive exhibition. Life and death are connected, and her imagined scenery were incorporated into the space of a mediathek by using a photo technique, and it's a kind of miracle exhibition. And she, after hosting that exhibition, she felt that she wanted to convey what she has done to many people. So that's how she got involved into the Aichi Triennale to continue her activities. And she finally said yes to us to participate in Aichi Triennale. And next, Mr. Fumiaki Aono from Sendai. He is, well, he had a little damage to his house due to the earthquake, and his relative had lost a house due to tsunami. But he used to collect the debris from the coastal area even before the March 11 for his art. And the restoration is his theme of the art. However, not just putting back to the original function, but he made them into something different. That's his technique of his restoration. After this earthquake, likewise, due to from debris or the remnants of the earthquake, he applied his artistic technique, and now he is going to participate in Aichi Triennale.
Next is the architect Jun Aoki and the artist Hiroshi Sugito. In the year 2011, they were planning an exhibition at the Aomori Museum of Art. However, they were directly hit by the disaster. Their exhibition was canceled. These two artists, I have asked for their participation, and they agreed. And they will be holding this exhibition at the Nagoya Museum of Art. They will hold a collaborated exhibition. Now I would like to introduce an artist who comes from the Tohoku area. He is from Mr. Yoshitomo Nara is from Aomori. Now I would like to move on to the foreign artists. They have visited the disaster-affected areas for research. From the UK, Blast Theory, I trekked around the disaster-hit areas with them. He was extremely interested in the stories of the fishermen, so he visited the temporary houses and interviewed the local fishermen. And as you can see, the big fisherman's ship, which was washed up on the hills up to the land, that was amazing, and he was also interested in this object. Next person is Alfred Jar. He came to Japan quite recently. He visited Ishinomaki City and went to the Okawa Elementary School, where many children were washed away by the tsunami. It's a very tragic place. So he will produce a piece of art, of which theme is the elementary school. Arnold Mick is the next artist. He is interested in the large-scale institutions, that is the evacuation centers and the temporary houses. He is now planning to create a video concerning this theme. Next person, Mr. Hikosaka. He has been involved in the wall painting in the temporary housing, as shown in this slide. Probably a huge number of temporary housing is going to be built in the coming years, but I think this temporary housing in Minamisoma, which is quite close to the crippled nuclear plant, this colorful wall-painted gathering place was created. And so I believe the residents can really feel that their place is very special. Next person is the architect, Katsuhiro Miyamoto. He has experienced the Hanshin-Awaji Great Earthquake. His house was totally destroyed. The picture that you can see on the right-hand side is after he had restored his house, and he decided to continue to use this house even though it was categorized as total destruction and uninhabitable. After the earthquake, he went to the Tohoku area at a very early stage, and he has been developing activities actively since then. Next, artist is a very young architect called Ryuji Fujimura. He has a grand vision, although he is young. After the disaster, he has started to develop a new grand Japanese land development plan. He has a grand vision like this. Another artist, Mr. Kenji Yanobe. He first got interested, he was inspired by the Chernobyl nuclear plant accident. And as you can see in the slides, he has created a huge statue called the Sun Child. This Sun Child has a Geiger counter, and the gauge shows the figure 0. It means that there's no radioactivity in this world. This child is looking upward, and he also holding a sun. This means that this child shows the artist great expectations for the new energy in the future. Finally, I would like to introduce the characteristics of Aichi Triennale 2013. The first point is that it has a strong message, a strong theme, and it will disseminate information based on this. This is the first large-scale international art festival to be held after the disaster, and so I decided that we need a very strong and appealing theme. The second characteristic, I come from the architectural world. Many architects, in addition to contemporary artists and performers, will participate in the coming art festival. The third characteristic is the connection with the Tohoku area. I myself, my activity base is in Sendai, so every week I continue to move from Tokyo to Sendai. So the art festival places emphasis on the artists who develop activities in the Tohoku area as well as museums in the region. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Igarashi. Next, I would like to ask Mr. Toyo Ito to give his presentation. Mr. Ito, please. Hello, good afternoon. I am the architect Toyo Ito. For the past 2 years, I have been really commuting to the Sanriku area. And I have been involved mainly in 2 activities. The first activity is the reconstruction plan. I am the director of the restoration and reconstruction plan of Kamaishi City. And the other activity is based on the kai called Kishin no Kai, composed of 5 architects. And this group have been involved in an activity to build a home for all in the disaster-hit region. I would like to talk about these 2 activities in today's presentation. First of all, what is the home for all? In the emergency evacuation centers and temporary housing, when I saw the reality, I found that this is something necessary. The people who have lost their houses, they need a place to gather and talk and enjoy drinks. At the same time, the users, I may not say that they can leave because it's a gathering place, the users, that is the residents, and those who are involved in building this place, that is architects, builders, constructors, and volunteers, students. I thought that the house needs to be built with based on the joint efforts of all of these participants. Thirdly, I wanted the users, so the residents of the area, to make this place the base to discuss the future course of the reconstruction of their community. The Home for All is founded upon these 3 pillars. And as of the end of January this year, we have completed 6 homes for all. As you can see in the map, we have 2 in Kamaishi City, 1 in Rikuzen Takata in Iwate Prefecture. In Miyagi Prefecture, Higashi Matsuyama City, there are 2 in the city. And the first one that we built in Sendai City, Miyagi-no Ward. In addition to these, we are already planning several projects, and I hope that within this year, these homes for all will be completed as well. We also launched a project in far away in Kyushu Island in Kumamoto Prefecture. And we have completed 2 homes for all in the Kyushu region as well. This is the home for all, the first one that we constructed in Miyagi-no Ward in Sendai City. Later in today's session, we will be connected to this home of all by Skype. As you can see, this home for all is built in a place where there are about 60 temporary houses. We have continued discussion with the residents. Some of them wanted porches, some of them wanted eaves, because they were not satisfied with their lives in the temporary housing. Some of them wanted wood-burning stoves, and so on and so forth. So we try to respond to their requests as much as possible. As you can see, they enjoy their drinks, their meals. And some of them have already left the temporary housing and built a new house. Some of them are now gradually starting to leave the temporary housing. This project was supported extensively by Kumamoto Prefecture. So when the home opened, the relationship between the Kumamoto prefectural residents and the residents of the temporary houses still continues, and I'm quite surprised about that. It was an unexpected achievement, I think. I am sometimes very moved by this amicable relationship. Next is Kamaishi City.
Next, Heita area, I think there are about 200 households of temporary houses. And Mr. Riken Yamamoto, one of the Kishinokai member, and he plays a central role for creating this home for all. And the tent, this is a tent, and it looks like as if it's Mount Fuji. This is home for all. This as well is in the center of a temporary housing area. So this is a very impressive one. And this is a drinking pub, according to what Yamamoto calls. So when it's a good weather, people gather at nighttime to have a drink together. And this is done by us. In June last year, it was completed, Kamaishi shopping mall. And on the left-hand side, you can see a big guy. He's Mr. Kano. He owns a confectionery shop in a nearby area, and he was affected by the damage. And this used to be the central shopping area of Kamaishi City. However, that was badly damaged due to the disaster. Well, a lot of stores had been closed even before the disaster. However, NPO was established, and once again they wanted to reboost the shopping association. That was their hope. So we decided to support such people by making this home for all. So, based on such story, there was not much residential area surrounding the people. However, young people gathered like this, and they are discussing for the future at this Home for All. On weekends, the temporary house residents can gather here, and a mini concert for kids and adults can be held in this Home for All. In in October last year, initiated by Ms. Kazuyo Sejima, this is a Home for All in Miyatojima, Higashimatsushima City. This is in the area premise of the elementary school, and this is a small Home for All. Here as well, like this, the temporary house residents gather and dine together. And in November last year, this is in Rikuzen Takara. This is a little special Home for All. In Venezia Biennale, in last autumn. The process of designing a Home for All was exhibited at the Japan Pavilion. And at the same time, in Rikuzen Takada, this Home for All was built. This is about 3 architects in their 40s, Mr. Akihisa and Ms. Inui, and others, and Mr. Hatakeyama, a photographer, and myself. So 5 of us formed a team, spent a year to design. We continued the discussion throughout the year to build this house. The cedar 19 cedars, the suffered cedars due to the assault was used to construct this Home for All. Log pillar was used. This is at the end of January this year. This is the latest one in Higashimatsushima City. The Home for All for kids. Ms. Maki Onishi and myself. Ms. Onishi is a young architect and work together. And CCC Cultural Convenience Club Key Point was contributed for constructing this Home for All. So 3 pretty roofs are used for this. And on the right-hand side, dome-like part, you can see. It can be movable, so it can be moved to other area and it can be used as a stage. And there are this is a big residential home, temporary residential area of about 600 households, so kids can run around in this stage. And there's another thing I'd like to introduce. Kamaishi City's reconstruction. Well, I serve as a reconstruction director of Kamaishi City. For about 2 years, I have been involved in various proposals. And Kamaishi City started this Mirai no Machi Future Town project since last autumn. For the elementary school, junior high school public housing ordered by the Kamaishi City to be designed, the designer to be picked up in the open proposal. That is the project. And by the end of January, 2 public housing project designers have been picked up. First, Mr. Akihisa Hirata. He is, as was introduced, Rikuzen Takada Home for All designer, one of the designers. So based on such experience, this is a small residential area of 50 households. So it's quite different from the existing public housing, but the image is something like reviving the traditional village. This is the concept of his design. The traditional Japanese houses, the atmosphere of traditional Japanese houses are being incorporated into his design. And on the other day, Kojirahama, the new community of about 20 households, such project got started. Mr. Yamashita, well, very small, young, and he has a small office, and he plays a central role for this project. With staff, he just goes anywhere with his staffs, and he just executes his design. So he does collaborate. He is expected to collaborate with the residents there. So far, I have just briefly introduced the projects. So now I'd like to accept questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we have a question and answer period for around 15 minutes. I would like people from the foreign press to ask questions first. If you had a question, please raise your hand. I will give you a hand mic. And before asking your question, please give us your name and affiliation. And please ask one question at one time. Now I would like to accept questions. Please. I am Kaneko from Spain Press. I have a question to Mr. Ito. When you talked about temporary housing, you said that you are constructing a home for all, but I think there's a limitation into how long this kind of temporary housing will be used. What happens to the home for all after when they are demolished? Basically, temporary housing will be used for 2 years. However, almost 2 years have already passed. Probably those houses that were constructed in May and June will almost be expired because 2 years will pass. That means that the residents will have to leave. So they will probably moving into public housing. This is one possibility. The fastest available public housing is those that just launched construction. So it means that it will take at least 1 or 2 years until they are completed. So this means that they'll have to stay in the temporary housing. So it is often said that even though there's a limitation of 2 years, there's no choice but to be extended to 3 or 4 years. So probably the temporary housing will continue to be used. As to what happens after that, I think it depends on the location. Making a remodeling, a restoration of the temporary housing is one possibility. So as to the home for all, I think it can still be used as a place for relaxation and relief. But this has to be discussed with the local residents. But I would say I'm quite convinced that it will not be demolished for quite some time. I'm sure of that.
I think we can take 2 to 3 more questions. So the Japanese press, yes, from Japanese press as well, we'd like to accept questions. And in addition, I forgot to mention, this Home for All project, it's basically like Kumamoto Prefecture from Japanese public, we receive some support in some cases. However, that's an exception. Basically, our Kishin no Kai members, basically from overseas, those who resonate with us, individuals and corporations or organizations, have supported us a lot for constructing this home for all. Thank you. So, yes, please. Yes, please.
From France. Well, I visited the place several times in Tohoku, Sendai especially, and my impression is that, well, there are so many things which haven't been done yet in this part of Japan. So you have an immense courage to bring this recovery under the theme of art, and that is something that we can understand. Nevertheless, how would you think, how would you evaluate 2 years after the situation on reconstruction, besides the architectural form that you have developed, besides the construction that you have realized yourself for art purposes? How do you evaluate the situation on reconstruction in the Tohoku area today?
ご質問はお二人にでしょうか、それとも。
Are you asking those two presenters to both? Okay. Okay, so let me answer the question first. Well, first, as you mentioned in your question, the impression, yes, I do have the same impression like you mentioned in your question. However, the government-led reconstruction plan will be probably in 1 to 2 years, like a school and hospitals and public housing and some other facilities will be focused on by the government-led reconstruction. And dramatically and speedily, such reconstruction work should be started. However, this reconstruction, according to my impression, it seems like that they are trying to create something like the suburb of the mega city. That's my concern. But against that, I myself think that this land, this area is behind the modernization. But on the other hand, they have their own characteristic, good characteristic. And the people's residence community down there is totally different from the community of the mega cities. And how can we convey such tradition to the future? I think this should be the most important. And it's not just the reconstruction of the disaster-hit area, but to the future of the Japan for the how the Japanese urban cities should be. It's something what we have to consider, and we have to learn from this lesson. That's how I feel. And that's something I have been talking repeatedly.
As for myself, I don't actually design architecture. As I've mentioned in my presentation, I am a critic, and I'm involved in architecture-related exhibitions. But at the same time, also, I'm a resident of Sendai City. Myself and my graduate school students are involved in temporary housing. What's actually happening in the disaster-hit area is that they go into the temporary housing for the time being. And I think it's kind of a limbo because I think time has stopped. They have now moved to the next stage. They have not found a place to live for a longer period. But they have so many things to decide immediately, and that's overwhelming. For example, Professor Onoda, who is my colleague at Toyo University, he is involved in a project with Mr. Ito, but he's facing a lot of difficulties, such as the problem of funding, a short budget. But at the same time, they are facing so many things to do, so many problems that need to be solved immediately. That's I keenly feel in my daily lives. And but as I told you before, I'm still very concerned about the memories of what happened, because the disaster hit areas, I've been there before the disaster, but I couldn't find any memories, signs of memories that these kind of disasters happened in the past. So I wonder, maybe the same thing can be repeated again. I think if we hasten to get achievements, and if we are too much concerned about this, I think we will abandon what needs to be memorized. For example, the possibility of preserving the disaster-hit buildings, and how to transmit these memories to the future. I think this is one important issue. But at the same time, I think that this is a big challenge. It's not easy.
Yes, please. The person in the very front. フリーランスでドイツから参りました。
Design from houses in new houses in residential area in Reconstruction Takata. Did you discuss with people from Reconstruction Takata about this type of houses? Do they accept this kind of architecture? Perhaps sometimes I fear people a bit conservative and think they want to try houses like they had before. This is a very new and wonderful design. But is this accepted by the people in Reconstruction Takata?
その地域というかその場所ごとにそのみんなの家はかなり違った様相を呈しております。そして陸前高田の場合には周りに人々は住んでおります。
People have been living in the surrounding area, and the characteristic is different from area to area. And as we have seen in the slides, when it was completed, Ms. Mikiko Sugawara, who was standing in the middle, and she is from that area. And with that person, we have communicated repeatedly to execute the construction of this house. And that person has a firm resolution. And in that area, from the day of the earthquake, she just devoted herself to the support of the sufferers even from the day of the disaster, and still now, yes, she does. And from that person, we have learned a lot. For instance, the cedar log to be used for the construction for the home for all. That log, the tree had been dead for once. That should not be abandoned. However, that should be used as a pillar of the home. And that could be a representative symbol of that area. That's what I learned from her. And another example is that the devastated, deserted town is just in front of you in the disaster hit area. However, that town, the home for all, it should be in the location that can look down on the deserted area, and Mitsugarawa played the leading role. And totally independent from the town's reconstruction plan, she said that she wanted to create a totally new town in that area. She had such a firm resolution to continue her activities. So that home for all has such a symbolic meaning as well. So like the first Miyaginoku home for all in the temporary area, people were close to the stove and had a discussion in a warm atmosphere in the warm area. I think that Rikuzen Takada Minna no Ie is a little different from the Miyaginoku Minna no Ie. So starting from scratch, such kind of a dynamic power is incorporated into that home for all. So it is a little different from residential people gather there and do something there. So it's a little different from the other home for all. In a year, we have spent about a year to have a discussion. And I think it could be okay to have something like this home for all. So maybe we can accept one more question. So please give the microphone to that next person.
I am Cho from Naigai Mainichi News. The plan that you have just advocated is totally different from the plans developed by the government. The plans formed by the private organizations like yours will be developed concurrently with the government's plan. How long do you think that it would take until all the sufferers will have a place to live? And what do you think of the garnering support from the government? The government-led projects will be then passed on to the local governments. These kind of projects are just like Mr. Igarashi has mentioned, they are delayed, but at the same time, I can say that they are making progress. But as one architect, I think these kind of reconstruction plans are placing too much emphasis on modern technology. And their philosophy is based on these kind of technologies, while on the other hand, the intentions are the people are not sufficiently reflected. So I need a more human viewpoint when we think of reconstruction. So I always thinking of a way to convey this message, and my projects are one of the small attempts in order to achieve this goal. If the government takes into consideration what the residents really want, I think that temporary housing will become a better place. So instead of just criticizing, I want to do something by myself, something that I can do, although it may be very modest. Mr. Igarashi, due to the same question, do you have any opinions? Yes, the government is very strong in our country. Everything is, if everything is top-down, government-led, we can get quick results. And I think in some countries this works. But in the case of Japan, there are many entities confronting, and we have to think of important problems involving all the entities. The Home for All project that Ito-san is been devoting his energy in is in a way led by architects, but it's not all that. It's really the home for all the people are involved. The residents who live in the areas, the users, they all participate in the discussion, and based on this discussion, the home is constructed. So this is, I think, is a very important alternative to government-led projects. Now I would like to move on to part 2 of today's briefing. I have to just make adjustments to Sendai because we have to be connected via Skype with Sendai. So may I have a little time before we can succeed in connecting? Mr. Igarashi and Mr. Ito, if you have anything to add, or if If you have some additional questions, since we have a little more time until we'll be connected, we'll be happy to accept your questions.
So I'd like to ask one short, quick question. Well, Ito-san will be participating in Aichi Triennale. That's a basic question, but this is my question number one. No, I will not. Well, rather I should say I'm not invited. Well, to be honest, Home for All in Venezia Biennale. Well, I was going to invite you. However, I heard that you have another appointment already. So I was thinking about inviting him. However, when I hit upon such idea, his schedule has already been booked. Mr. Igarashi, as an international festival and earthquake should be the theme. Yes, I understand that. And on the other hand, Aichi Triennale, the location of Aichi, well, what is the relationship between them? How do you incorporate those two aspects? Well, of course, Aichi Triennale is the location of Aichi. There is a strong characteristic of location of Aichi among artists, young artists, or the artists related to Aichi are also invited. And Aichi and Tohoku, in relation to the Tohoku and Aichi, Mr. Yoshitomo Nara and Mr. Hiroshi Sugito have a relationship to two locations of Aichi and Tohoku. And Mr. Jun Aoki has designed the Louis Vuitton starting from Aichi, Sakai area. And his representative works it's stored in museum in Aomori. And Japan is a nation of earthquakes. So in Aichi, there might be an earthquake hitting Aichi as well. And Japan, after the Pacific War, the huge earthquake hit Aichi. However, due to the wartime, it had not been reported a lot even in Japan. However, in a sense, Aichi could face an earthquake. So there is such a common background in between those places. That's another thing I can say. And so through a location characteristic, various things to be reviewed again. So the Great East Japan earthquake, in that earthquake, a tsunami just depicts the topography. That's what I felt by looking at the this disaster. So this is included in the Earth. It's included in the sub-theme. So the buildings in Aichi to be reviewed once again. That is another thing that we would like to do to extend the theme. It is not just a simple disaster triennale. So that's why we have another aspect in this triennale. So another question, please.
As to the coming triennale, of course, everyone's afraid of earthquakes and tsunami. But if it was only that, we have already recovered, but we had a terrible nuclear power accident that caused a huge damage. So in your triennale projects, is there anything that you are planning to do in relation to the nuclear power accidents? Yes, some of the artists will utilize the theme related to the nuclear power plant accident. Contemporary art is not just about pursuing pure beauty. It reflects what's happening in the society. So naturally, I think there are works of art with a theme related to nuclear power plant accidents. At the same time, many works of art are incorporating things that are happening in their own home countries.
about that precisely. Facing such magnitude of destruction that we've seen, well, at least I'm one of those who saw it when I was in the region from March 11 to 20 days about. And I was absolutely wondering at that time when I was seeing all those destroyed land on hundreds of kilometers, what are they going to do? What are Japanese going to do with their architecture, with their rebuilding facilities? What are they going to create? And for 2 years, we had these discussions among many people in Japan and with foreign people coming here, engineers, artists, people specialized in crisis management or reconstruction of everything. And many people were saying, what is Japan going to do? So there were people who were talking about, for example, energy. They say, well, maybe it's time for Japan to become greener, and Japan could become a very green society, maybe the number one in terms of renewable energy. Nuclear people say, no, we are going to continue our plans. Okay, that's one thing, energy. So second thing is rebuilding the villages. I mean, you are in Japan. There are many people who want to stay the same place where they were born, for example. And how have you conceived or how have you seen yourself involved in that project? How have you thought the future of Japan in reconstruction? Because we cannot just build a house for all. I mean, it goes beyond that. As you said, we need to use the materials, the trees from here and things like that. How do you conceive a future architectural plan for this region in Tohoku? How would Japan look in 20 years, 30 years after that terrible situation?
Well, thank you very much for the wonderful question. And I myself regard it as the most important. As I mentioned earlier, the disaster hit area not supporting the disaster hit area, but from the disaster hit area, the new Japan have to be reborn, recreated. The disaster hit areas in disaster hit area, the newly created town in the disaster hit area will be the leading role, should play the leading role of the future Japan. Otherwise, such an immense catastrophe, based on such an immense catastrophe, what Japan has learned, that might be the opinion that many people might have. So, I myself, I deviate a little from the main point. However, I'd like to give you some example. Well, I overheard this story from somebody else. One day, Japan and overseas children. Somebody asked them, what is a house? And their answers, overseas kids said that they started explaining about their families and how they lived. However, the Japanese kids answered, only Japanese kids answered, our houses has how many bedrooms and something like that. So I think this story represents something characteristic. The current Japan, in the post-war, how many bedrooms in a house? A house is separated into many rooms, and as long as privacy is kept, that means everything to family members. And that's how the house is being designed in the post-war period. And that idea has been conveyed to the temporary houses. But, however, the disaster-hit area people had a different way of living. So that's why they were behind from the modernization. So they just continued the pre-modern Japanese way of living. So in there, the new Japanese lifestyle original point, starting point should be in there. So we should be more exposed to the future in the living environment. And based on that, the Japan's original and Asian specific energy sufficient idea might be born out of there. So I think we have to start from there, I think. And as you mentioned at the beginning, how the new town should be by maintaining the safety. Well, the current basic idea is as follows. Based on tsunami simulation, if the same scale of tsunami happens, then a 10-meter bank should be established. And if not 10 meter, then We should learn from 100 years ago. Meiji Sanriku tsunami, we should learn from the Meiji Sanriku tsunami. So creating a bank is something, starting point. But I think that is different. We have to, this is the ocean, this is a residential area. This is something similar to the housing idea. The technological barrier, by establishing a technological barrier, we tend to have a barrier, but we have to give up such barriers. Without such bank building, I think we can live a more safer life. However, in order for that, we have to have a place to run into, and we have to be aware how we should run away from the risk. We have to focus more on the software, and it is difficult to put it in the numerical data. When there is a tsunami hitting, then if people are in the bed without knowing it, then maybe we have to build a bank. That may be one answer. However, I would like to raise an objection to that. And we have to be more exposed to the nature. And I think in there, the reconstruction, resurrection way is lying in there. Now we have connected to Sendai. So from now on, we'd like to move on to the second part, Sendai part.
Ms. Koizumi, are you in Sendai? I'll pass the microphone to you. Hello, this is Sendai. Miyagi Ward in Sendai City. This is a home for all that was built in the temporary housing in this area. First of all, I asked the representatives of the Residents Association to gather here. Time is limited, but I would like to introduce to you. First of all, I would like to introduce to you Chairman of the association, Ito-san and Igarashi-san. Hello, everyone. My name is Hirayama Ichio. I'm the Chairman of the Residents Association. Within a 20 minutes drive from Sendai station, we can get to this home for all. This was an area severely hit, washed away by the tsunami. How many people are living here? 120 people in 47 houses. And Mr. Hirayama, you are running a plant utilizing the Reconstruction Fund, is that right? With my neighbors, we are running a plant of a water vegetable planting. We started last November, and it started to grow the plants, and already we had shipped the vegetables. We are working hard, three of us. And all those here in the temporary housing, we are in good spirits. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to introduce to you the Director of Home for All, Mr. Tsugio Hirayama. Mr. Ito, hello, nice to see you. I'm very nice to join the session today. I am Hirayama. On March 11th, 2011, I was on the car with my wife, evacuating in the car. I was washed by the tsunami about 2 kilometers. I landed in the paddy fields and then went to the evacuation center, then to the temporary housing. That's the course that I traveled after the disaster. And thanks to the Home for All, I feel very good. There was a time when my wife suffered from depression, but she's feeling better now. Mr. Ito, I look forward to your continued cooperation and support. Next, I would like to introduce to you two ladies representing the residents, Mrs. Masako Hirayama and Mrs. Katsuko Hirayama. Mr. Ito, hello. I saw you on television programs. You look quite busy. Are you feeling okay? Are you healthy? Thanks to your efforts, all the ladies are really powerful, active, and we are getting along very well. I'm waiting for you to come. I'll be waiting for you. And next, Mrs. Katsuko Hirayama. Mr. Ito, I haven't seen you for a while. Hello, I'm Katsuko Hirayama. I really enjoyed your stay when you were here. I want to see you again. And please take care of your health. I look for your continued support. Thank you very much. Next, I want to introduce to you a representative of youth, Mr. Motomichi Kunugiza, who is a master's degree student at Toyo University. I am a student of Mr. Igarashi. My name is Kunugiza. I'm in the first year of the master's course. When just before I was going to the fourth grade, we were hit by the disasters. And I'm now involved in the reconstruction plan. In this area, most of the houses were washed away. And I'm interviewing the residents, and I'm surveying the remaining buildings. And I'm trying to propose something that is as close to what they were living in before the earthquake. And in the laboratory, Professor Igarashi's laboratory, I'm involved in the temporary housing that the people from this area have moved in. At the same time, I'm trying to support the residents as best as possible. I surveyed in what kind of residence they want to live, and also in relation to AICHI Triennale, I'm helping an artist called Mr. Aono. Mr. Ikeda. That's the main part of my activity. That's all from Sendai. I would like to return the microphone to Ms. Suzuki. Please proceed to the question asking period. I'm sorry, there were times when it was difficult to see the footage, but I think you could hear very well. If you have any questions to the Sendai residents, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. I am Korean. This earthquake, to the sufferers of the Great East Japan earthquake, my heart also pains, and the same is shared with the Korean people. So I would like to ask you a question. What is your wishes? What do you expect to this project? What do you expect to this project? Well, to the reconstruction, the expectation to the reconstruction. Well, we could not hear you clearly sometimes. But what is your expectation to the reconstruction? Is that your question? Yes, please. Well, so Mr. Hirayama, please, your expectation to the reconstruction. I'm Hirayama. Well, my expectation to the resolution, resolution to the expectation is that it's been about 2 years. However, it's not been smooth due to fund and various elements. So we have to make efforts, or maybe the town office may have to make further efforts as well. Gradually, reconstruction, the repairs be made to the older areas, and I think we will make further efforts. That's all. So the director of Home for All, please. Well, in the disaster hit area, there are tombs and the inherited land in the disaster hit area. So we are going to reconstruct in such places. And with my wife, I am going to live in there again. And Ms. Masako Hirayama, please. Well, I myself as well have got my house repaired. And if it gets warmer, I'm going to go back to my original house. However, it is not newly constructed. If a house once damaged, even if it's been repaired, and one after another, we will have some other places to be repaired. So it's been lingering. This situation has been lingering. Ms. Katsuko, Mr. Ito, myself and others are now back to the original place. However, we are a family of 7. And in the temporary house, myself and my husband and my grandmother, 3 of us are living in the temporary house. Young people are now living in the rented apartment house. However, my husband says that he wants to go back to the original place. However, the young people, my grandchildren, they said they didn't want to come back to the house. So the asset is important for us. However, we might follow my grandchildren and my younger family members. So that's what I'm going to do. Next question, please.
If you have any questions, please.
Konnichiwa, Joy Legendre, Florence Rosso Tokuhain. Minasan, konnichiwa. And I have a question for you. What is, right now, if you could talk to the Prime Minister or to the government of Japan, what is, for you, the most important problem that you have to resolve 2 years after this catastrophe? What is your emerging problem today?
ございます。ではお願いいたします。
はい、これも会長さんだね。
The first thing that I would like to request is the construction of an evacuation area in the high grounds. We live near the ocean, so we are urgently in need of evacuation places upon the hills, on the highlands. I hope that this will be realized. Money, that's a big problem. No matter we're going back to the place we lived or moving to another place, either way we need some money. To construct a new house or to go to another place, we need a sufficient amount. This is what we need urgently. Do you have anything to say to Prime Minister Abe? When I think of going back to my old home, it's near the sea. I can see the ocean. So even though I make a decision to go back, I can only stay for, I say, 2 hours. So I want them to construct a sea wall. And I'm waiting. I live with an 87-year-old mother-in-law. So she cannot walk. She needs some transportation means to evacuate. So I want the government to think of transportation measures as well. up till now, I was a farmer. Combiner, tractors, all my machinery was washed away by the tsunami. I used to sell vegetables to my customers, but I can't do this anymore. It's really painful that I cannot work in the fields. I didn't have to take pills to reduce my blood pressure, but after the disaster and since I started living in the temporary housing, my blood pressure became high because it's stressful not to work and where I used to. And another request is I hope that the land that I used to own could be purchased. I hope that the government and Prime Minister would take into consideration these matters. I hope that my request will be met. Well, I would like to pass the microphone again to Tokyo.
So it's about time. So we have to say goodbye to Sendai people. So to Tokyo Press, to Mr. Ito, to Mr. Igarashi, do you have anything to say from Sendai? Mr. Ito, Mr. Igarashi, and press people in the floor, thank you very much for today. Well, I'm sorry about having not been able to answer a question very well. So thank you very much, and goodbye. And we will do our best. So goodbye from Sendai to Tokyo. Thank you very much. And please do visit us. We are waiting for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's about time. So lastly, Mr. Igarashi, Mr. Ito, could you give us some closing remarks? So Mr. Igarashi, please. Well, I myself, after the earthquake, Aichi Triennale, I got involved in Aichi Triennale. And what I can do, it's something that I have been wondering. Well, of course, I am from the architectural area, so I'm thinking about something architectural. Ito-san's Venezia Biennale's exhibition last year. And I went down there and I actually observed the exhibition. And what was impressive was that Mr. Naoya Hatakeyama was involved. He's a photographer. Mr. Hatakeyama was involved. Well, the architects, dynamics of the architects is being expressed in the exhibition. However, in there is some additional layer placed. Artist, photographer, Mr. Hatakeyama, by him joining there, the exhibition itself was more communicable. That's how I felt. And especially Mr. Hatakeyama himself answered in the interview. And what was impressive in his comment was this type of earthquake can never be understood unless you have experienced it. And those who have not experienced it, you wouldn't understand that. People might look at this disaster. However, the expression power, capability of the art would not divide people. The empathy and the imaginary creative power is something that the art does have. That's what Hatakeyama mentioned in the interview. Was very impressive. So the art wouldn't divide people. This is what Hatakeyama mentioned. So the artist's power is something different from the architects, and it's a little different from the press and the documentary. And it leads to memory and to resonate people and to link people. So in Aichi Triennale, such kind of artistic power, artistic dynamism is something that we'd like to show. Thank you.
As for myself, I think you saw on the screen the people who are living in Sendai. As some of the participants said, many people were farmers. Their houses were not necessarily totally destructed. It still stands, although it's severely damaged. That's most of the case. So depending on where the houses are constructed, Mr. Hirayama, the director, have just mentioned, they are determined to return to the place that they used to live, even though there's still the risk of tsunami hitting their residential places. But they still feel the necessity to preserve what they have inherited from their ancestors. I don't think that it was a very glamorous, beautiful rural area, but in each place, there are various memories preserved and stocked. It is different from hardware. How should we inherit and preserve these kind of memories? And without doing so, the people who are living in the temporary housing will lose their objective of living. So one proposal the government says will be moving them into higher grounds, but this will not be a solution for them. Recently, I visit local cities frequently. Whenever I visit these kind of cities, there are many young people who move from the urban areas to the rural areas to become farmers. So I was always thinking of architecture of something strongly related to urban areas, but rather, maybe it's time for us to think of a future of which foundation is more inclined on the rural areas. As for the Foreign Press Center, this is the first time that we co-sponsored a press briefing with Skype, using the Skype. I feel relieved that we are able to end this meeting in success. We are planning very informative press briefings next month and the months to come. Thank you very much for your attendance and cooperation.